because the conservatives, they use a regressive economy, which is an economy that's favorable to the rich, but it's bad for everyone else. As soon as a Democrat comes into power, they're going to use a progressive economy, which is favorable to the middle class and anyone above. And then when that happens, the illusion of democracy returns, and then everyone goes back to worrying about stupid things that have no meaning. And people, you're going to see people in the streets saying, we have our freedom back, we have our democracy back. But really what they don't realize is they never had it to begin with. All it is that they've traded one corrupt politician for another, but it's the same garbage.
Well, Bush is leaving the presidency soon. Do you think all this will be done before the next election? Do you think we will become the North American Union before the next election?
No, as I said, it's going to take a lot of years for that to happen. I would have to guess if it does happen sooner than that, I would be very surprised, because like I told you, Mexico's government, the leader over there, he's an extreme nationalist, and he doesn't want to merge with the U.S. government. He's very angry with them, even though the U.S. government was the one that backed his government. If you look at the Mexican elections, it was already proven that the U.S. government sent funds to his campaign, and they haven't just done that with him. They've done that with many other people before, saying that they're trying to encourage democracy, even though Felipe Calderon's government, which is, they call it the Institutional Revolutionary Party, or the PRI, which is the government of the Mexican Revolution, some garbage like that. These people are war criminals. If you look at the PRI, when they were in power in Mexico, in a virtual dictatorship for 7 or 8 years, or maybe even a decade, I think, and during that time, they had mass political murders and everything, where they took all the radicals in the country and killed them, and then had them buried in huge ditches. And then when the Party for National Action, or PAN, which was Vicente Fox's party, when they came to power, they discovered all of these documents showing the tortures and all the things that they did, and then they found the bodies of all the dead mass dissidents and everything. And even with that, the PRI, they come to power, even though they should be an illegal organization, because in my opinion, these people were no better than the Nazi dictatorship. You know, they banned the Nazis for doing that, so why didn't they ban the PRI? The U.S. government supported the PRI in the election with voting fraud. They caught somebody from the campaigns and everything fixing the ballots to make it look like Felipe Calderon had won, instead of López Obrador from the Party for Democratic Revolution, which is a progressive conservative party. And but even that, you know, the PRI and their leader Felipe Calderon refuses to merge with the U.S. government. He's playing the hardline card right now because he's trying to get more benefits from him. Because he's a smart man. He knows that the U.S. needs Mexico's resources. They need, you know, the only reason the economy right now hasn't totally collapsed is because of what they're stealing from Mexico. With the NAFTA, which was that treaty between the U.S. government, the Mexican government, and the corporations from this country, they're destroying Mexico's economy to the point where the middle class over there are disappearing, which makes me laugh when all these right-wing fanatics and the Minutemen, they go out there marching saying the Mexicans are destroying the economy and everything, when the U.S. government has been destroying Mexico's economy and really the world economy for many years, stealing from people, you know, making sure that they're not paid, even paid below what they're used to in other countries and everything like that. So the U.S. government needs Mexico's influence. They need Felipe Calderon. Calderon will never merge with them because he knows when that happens, he won't have as much power or influence over this country as he does right now. So as long as he's in power in Mexico, the NAU will never happen. And the Canadians, you know, they're a lot more intelligent than most of the people over here because they don't live in apathy, even though it is a government, capitalist government like the one over here. The people over there, they're a lot more politically conscious. They pay attention. They do a lot of things that many people over here can learn from them, and because of mobilized action that they've taken over there, they've stopped the Canadian government from being able to merge with the U.S., so it will take many years. many, many years for them to merge all three countries into the NAU. It's going to take them a while. First of all, the PRI and Felipe Calderón have to come out of power, or the PRI can stay in power, because the PRI is the only movement that I think would ever consider merging the U.S. and Mexico, but with Felipe Calderón, it's just not going to happen. And in Canada, they're going to need people who are so hard-line in power that they won't care what the people say or think. They're going to merge all three governments, so until that happens, it's not going to happen yet. And then the Lisbon Treaty is being resisted by the Europeans left and right all over the place, and even one flaw of this is that some of the people who want the Lisbon Treaty, the people who support the Lisbon Treaty are split into two parts. The ones that want the U.S. to merge with them, and the ones who don't want the U.S. to merge them because they're so nationalistic that it's actually to the point where they're actually kind of racist against anyone who would be American. I mean, over there, my father went over there, and he's not a white man. He's a Cuban who has citizenship here. And when he spoke to them in English, he said that many of the Europeans there didn't like him or didn't even acknowledge his presence. He had to speak in Spanish, believe it or not, for these people to pay attention to him or to help him out with anything or even to order something in a restaurant. So, I mean, the extreme nationalism over there is what's causing the rift, and that's part of the reason why they haven't merged yet, which is kind of funny because who would have thought that racism or prejudice would actually help to accomplish something good, which is stopping them from merging their governments into one dictatorship. But, these are all problems that could be worked out, and eventually they wouldn't care, and they would just merge.
Galan, we're almost out of time, and I have a couple more questions for you.
Yes.
Do you think, many people think that martial law will be called before the next election, and that Bush will not leave the presidency. What do you think? I think you sent me a YouTube on it. And also, what about these FEMA prison camps that are, that resemble Nazi prison camps that are standing empty now across this country? What do you think?
Well, the first thing is that the FEMA camps aren't empty entirely. They've started putting Mexican people into them. The thing is that they don't show it out in the open on the media, but there was a small town somewhere in the south, and the Minutemen were actually horrified because at first they didn't care. They said, oh, the dirty Mexicans are being put into these camps and everything, yay. But then when they saw people from Homeland Security and whatever over there, all of a sudden they stopped cheering because they realized that long after the Mexicans are deported, who do you think is going to be put into these camps? That's when they realized it. And even one friend that I have, ironically, he is a Minuteman, but we've had talks and we're able to exchange ideas. And he understands why I believe the way that I believe, and I've allowed him, I've helped him to understand that he's been lied to, and he's been turned against people based on their nationality for no reason. But he told me that there was one woman who kept going to all of the Minuteman rallies, and one day she showed up at the rally and she says, forget the Mexicans, something even worse is happening, because she said that her father works for Homeland Security and that they were planning to unleash a virus or something on the entire country, and then to say that it was a terrorist attack so that they could declare martial law. So, God help us if that ever happens.
Which would trigger what? What would that martial law, what would that catastrophe trigger?
It would trigger basically the government totally shedding whatever appearance it has of democracy. It would turn into a total militaristic dictatorship like any other country would. And then you have soldiers and police officers all over the streets and everything, and when you see that, then you're going to know that it's already come. And the worst part of it is that the people are going to be so scared when they see this virus and everything out that they're not going to be thinking rationally. They're going to think that it was terrorists, because they're not going to think that it was a government, their own government, whatever. They're going to cling to whoever is, holding their hand at the time and telling them, don't worry, we'll make it better for you, but we need you to give up your rights so that we can make it better. And then that's when you'll see that little by little, or maybe all in one hit, they're going to turn the entire country into either a fascist-style dictatorship or a militarist style dictatorship, more than likely maybe a fascist style dictatorship, because that's what they seem to be leaning towards. But
and what happens to those who don't